Welcome, Bula from Fiji. I'm sitting in Tut. Welcome the conference in California. I was asked to explain the Pacific GIS and Remote Sensing Council. This council was created or had to be official in 2017. Official means I have a seal, have a postbox and a constitution, a letterhead to be able to have our own account. This was the reason. The council such was already living quite a number of years. It was the conference committee to run the Pacific IIS and user conference. It was then launched, not in the backyard, officially by the Lands Department. You see here in the middle the Minister of Lands, the trustees and me. One trustee was at this time the permanent Secretary of Lands and Mineral Resources. The council has had to follow the Fiji legal system to have all the bits and pieces it needs. So we need 3 trustees. In the meantime, we have 4 board, and we have country focal points. I will explain this later. Back to the history. Satellite remote sensing remote sensing from space-based was very late in the Pacific. You all know the Pacific Island countries are out of the footprint of any station. And in 1991, we covered Fiji as the first country with Landsat data, and we had to switch on a relay satellite in order to do this. But this, having satellite data, created local GIS and remote sensing user groups, which were outside the official government structure, but government followed and got the summary of meetings and met one day later to get the ideas in. And this conference committee later formed. Back to this user meet, which was the point of all. We met in beginning only in Fiji every 4 weeks and discussed what every GIS unit, all new, had done the last 4 weeks. I want to do in the next 4 weeks. This was because at this time, lots of consultants came in and sold their product 2 or 3 times, or try at least. And this stopped this, that we met. And then we started to explain to other GIS and remote sensing units news of applications, new methods, and it was a lively, the meetings became more lively, and this was directly flying into the objectives of the council. This is a legal word. Here it is more understandable. It's to develop, collaborate. One important thing is to adapt methods which are working well in Australia, US or Europe to environment, distribute publications, awareness and news, and also to establish links. The user group meetings always were held in a different department so that we got to know the other departments. And this was then translated in the Pacific Island countries. I come back to this. The board, 10 members, not anymore all SPC. We have, in the beginning was mainly C. We have a wide range, and we have 2 board members not based in Fiji, based outside Fiji. These are our trustees: Malachi Finau, Russell Howard, Rajendra Singh, Arthur Farua. Trustees are there for the financial backup in case we run into red figures. The trustees can be reliable. Our council cannot run much in red figures because we don't have much. But the trustees give input, and this is interesting. We have, since quite a time, country focal points. When a union launched a project in 2003, at this time, in 16 different Pacific Island countries, GIS and also remote sensing were established. At the same time, very high resolution satellite data were available, which were applicable to a mapping scale 1 to 10,000. It's not only that we are outside the footprint of any ground receiving antenna, it's also the mapping scale, which made it difficult to place. It has all changed, and we have now in these countries focal points. They are in the local GIS and user groups. They steer the conference. We have every week one meeting online where they give input how to style the conference, and they encourage people to present. They also encourage people to write articles in the GIS and remote sensing newsletter. Okay, we have with the council a number of vehicles to disseminate information. Of course, the Pacific Islands GIS and Remote Sensing User Conference. It's the Earth Observation Conference of the Pacific. In the meantime, we have up to sometimes over 300 visitors, and they are not financed to come from Pacific countries towards SUVA. It is their own money they have to activate to participate in the conference. Since 1996, we have an email distribution list as PACnet, which as help for web info implementation, but it turned over to a distribution list in GIS and remote sensing. So all, let's say, Earth observation, remote sensing. We have then Pacific Island GIS and remote sensing newsletter. I will come back to it. And we have the conference website. Conference website in the meantime is PGRSC website at the same time. It started when remote sensing started in 1999. And in the beginning, it just reported the meetings, but then interesting article came in, and later it got over to other Pacific Island countries and people published articles. The newsletter has an ISSN number, and it is easy for a Pacific Islander to get something into a newsletter, which is sort of a publishing instrument because the ISSN number is there since many years. Important in nowadays, where everything is online and so that the newsletter documents the GIS and remote sensing development in Pacific Island countries. Often people come and say, oh, a new application, and then you can do the newsletter and can show that this already was tried and which kind of okay. Right. This is the newsletter changed its face, but look at the website. You will find interesting the last nearly 30 years. Okay, the conference started to summarize the good presentations of the GIS and remote sensing monthly meetings. It started not with SOPEC. It started with USP and Lands Department. It grew, and when the project was launched from European Union to establish in 6 countries remote sensing units, the conference suddenly became a regional conference. More and more people from other countries came, and the conference was then renamed to Pacific. Before it was the Fiji conference. 2003, when it became regionally, suddenly companies moved in. And this was interesting. We suddenly had a sort of tripartite conference. There were companies, there were scientists, not only from New Caledonia and Fiji University, more and more from Australia and also United States and Europe came in. And this was an interesting discussion between them. In 2005, another interesting part of the started the discussion session where people from a company, from universities and from the users started to discuss things which need adaptation to run in Pacific environment. One thing I forgot to say, this year the conference is the first time not in Fiji. It's run in Vanuatu as a hybrid conference. Not many people from outside Vanuatu will come in, but it is first time outside, and something else will run the first time. We have a memorandum of understanding with the University of the South Pacific, and to bridge low bandwidths, people will sit in the USP hubs, and USP has own network over own antennas and submarine cables, and they can follow in the hubs the conference and can participate from far distance, bridging low bandwidths. We have some important links where we have memorandum of understandings. We are long time in connection with ISPRS. You saw beginning of the discussion session. The slide showed the president of ISPRS at this point in time. We have a link with IUCN and with USP, both supporting the grassroots level. And there is a very good interconnection between. We are the relay for Copernicus. We have a MOU with OpenStreetMap, also something which is grassroots based. And we have institutional members. We have personal members. We have, and this is very important, student members, to get students very soon into the complete discussion about remote sensing. And we have institutional members. You see here quite a number. These institutional members bring development into the discussion, and interesting and important for us. Okay, that was it. I think there will be the other one or other question, and it's free membership. Become a member.
Yes. Well noted. Vinaka, well, for this presentation. Do we have any question from the floor or online? Yes.
I don't want to be, but Ival, thank you very much for your presentation. Sorry, I switched to French. Wolf, on comprend bien qu'il y a dans le PGRSC deux types, j'allais dire, de partenaires. D'une part, les membres du réseau, et puis d'autre part, des organisations voilà, avec lesquels vous avez d'autres types d'interactions. Vous avez signé un Memorandum of Understanding il y a pas si longtemps que ça, je pense un an, 2 ans maximum avec USP. Quelle est la relation de travail que vous avez installée avec USP sur ce réseau?
For example, with USB develops a data hub, an open data hub. We support this. USB provides a network. We provide additional network. So it's extremely good cooperation. USB Institute, we have a written MOU of bilateral assistance. The same as IUCN. IUCN is an organization which also supports basic GIS and remote sensing development. And this is something where we cooperate and assist. Besides this, we have institutional members such as SPREP and companies which bring in certain service and the idea of using GIS and especially Earth observation data.
Thanks, Wolf. If there is no more question, I propose you to go on with next presentation. Just a small complementary information. Je vais passer en français. Je rappelle donc la conférence GIS NRS qui aura lieu, la Pacific conférence qui aura lieu donc dans 3 semaines maintenant, je crois, 3 ou 4 semaines. Donc prenez note des dates. On pourra vous les recommuniquer. Petit point important, donc cette année, effectivement, c'est pour la première fois en dehors de Fidji. Wolf l'a souligné, c'est vraiment un grand pas aussi pour les territoires de la région de pouvoir accueillir une telle conférence, vu l'importance de telles conférences et partage d'informations, de projets à un niveau technique et institutionnel. Et on souhaite, au niveau de la RT à minima, et au niveau du territoire, on souhaite accueillir cette conférence en Nouvelle-Calédonie. On l'avait annoncé à Fidji il y a 2 ou 3 ans de ça, 3 ans. Donc on peut confirmer maintenant cet intérêt. Et si ce n'est pas l'année prochaine, ça pourrait être celle d'après. Mais du coup, on serait heureux de faire partie de ces territoires accueillant les autres territoires du Pacifique sur des sujets comme la géomatique, en voulant s'insérer de plus en plus dans la région. Merci encore, Wolf. Et puis je vais laisser la parole du coup à Valérie et Souchil pour la présentation sur le PURN. Alors je suis désolé, j'ai complètement oublié de les citer tout à l'heure, mais on a une présentation très intéressante donc, sur le réseau universitaire de Nouvelle-Calédonie et de la région Pacifique pour le coup.